We gonna do the thizzle. You know why we gonna do the thizzle? I'm gonna tell
Cause you
you
nervous.
Oh.
No, it's playing. Cause you. What up, world? You already know what it is. It's Saturday nights live. What is it, Ulises?
it is Saturday nights live.
Saturday nights live. You know what I'm saying? Right here at the F.I.R.M podcast. Y'all know what it is. You may not be as firm as we are, but we're hoping that you're standing firm in the light of all that may be in front of you, behind you. And if you're not, where we at? That's what this fellowship is all about. And sometimes we need you. You know what I'm saying? To hold us accountable to this firm, this fellowship in righteous manner. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate y'all being with us tonight. To everybody out there, you know what I'm saying? We're grateful for each and every one of y'all being here with us, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook. We always want you guys to, if you're on Facebook, follow us. You know what I mean? Go to our Facebook page at the F.I.R.M 365 24/7. Why? Because it's all day, all the time. I was about to say all night, but not always all night. But it's 24/7. You know what I'm saying? All year round, we kicking it to each and every one of y'all. So we appreciate all the likes and the love that we get throughout the week. And those of you who watch live. And don't forget, you can find us at the F.I.R.M 365 24/7, also on Instagram. Check out our page on there. Just follow us. Go over there. Just hit the follow button. You follow so many people, you probably don't even remember that you follow anyways. So follow us too. You know what I mean? You agree? I mean, we put stuff up there. What about YouTube?
Hey, we got the YouTube and the same channel, y'all. At the F.I.R.M 365 24/7 at YouTube. Make sure y'all hit the subscribe button. Make sure y'all hit that notification bell. So that way y'all can know when we're live. And y'all, hey, listen, it is free to share.
It is.
It doesn't cost you nothing to share. It doesn't cost you nothing to hit that love button, to even hit that share button on Facebook. Let the people know that we are live, that we are in color, and we are dropping some, you know, because we've been in the music festivities as of late.
It's been a lot.
Been dropping bangers right here in the F.I.R.M podcast. So we appreciate every single one of you guys, and thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to spend time with us, with everything that is going on between the movies and family festivities and the get-togethers and whatever sports is on the cable.
What is it?
You chose to spend time with us tonight, so we appreciate it very, very much. What's happening, my brother? How are you doing? What's cracking in Naptown?
Naptown is doing all right, man. We feeling good over here, going through things just like everybody else out there, hanging in, maintaining, you know what I'm saying, trying to be present for purpose. You know what I mean? And when you're doing that and you're doing it on purpose, trying to be present on purpose for purpose, Sometimes you might get a little paranoid. You might be like, I don't know who to trust. What I've learned to do is over the years is patience is truly a virtue, you know what I mean? And sometimes you gotta wait. I've been through the wait that I was good at, the wait that I was crying through, the wait that I tapped out on, the the weight that I was, you know what I'm saying, desired, but might have been hating and somebody else. Look at you with all that patience. You know what I'm saying, what did you get all the patience? I can't get none.
Right.
But either way, I'm learning to step light, to take my time. And no matter what pace I meet somebody else in life, or no matter what pace somebody meets me in life or us, you know what I mean? That it's okay to stay at the pace that you are at. You don't have to speed up. You don't have to, you feel like sacrificing is number one. But don't get suckered into that stuff. The pace that you was on got you where you were at.
Wisdom.
You know what I'm saying?
Dropping bars. Dropping bars.
That's all I'm saying. But tonight is about transparency. Tonight is about friendship. Tonight is about when nothing is going right. Tonight is about our very own brother and our very own, my fellow host, your host, you know what I'm saying? Our favorite host, Ulises, tonight. You know what I'm saying? Tonight is story time right here on the F.I.R.M podcast. And what this is there's going to be times where we may have to get some things off the chest, and it doesn't matter what we saying, how we saying it, whatever. We just going to put it out there and it just be out there because, you know what I mean? Because we ain't scared of the truth that one day we're hoping God has intended for our good. So why skip out on the part of the movie that maybe isn't the most heroic, maybe isn't the most bold, maybe isn't the most level-headed, could be confusing. Why take that out the movie? That's a part of the character development. You know what I'm saying? I need to see where it came from. What he going through.
That's right.
Tonight, we're going to try to get into some of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's story time and it's host interviews. We'll have some other interviews, I'm sure, before the end of the year. You know how everybody start ramping up towards the end of the year. That's what we're going to try to get in on some of those great moments. But tonight is a moment between us. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to play the role of the interviewer. Ulises will be the interviewee. And please, you know what I'm saying, don't hesitate to comment live while we're on the air. Y'all already know how it is.
Or ask your own questions.
Now I might take what you asking and make it my own. But, we working together in this. It's about the fellowship, baby. Be released from that anger, resentment, and bitterness. That's evident.
Our context on it, and it kind of changed the definition.
Convinced himself that he's sufficient for himself.
I love discipleship. Why I love mentoring.
The us and the us and them is ever growing.
Facebook posts, Instagram posts, just another way of connecting with people.
Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another great conversation on F.I.R.M podcast. What up, world? This is the F.I.R.M. Like I said, y'all join me. You know what I mean? Make sure that you comment live while we're on the air so that we can, you can play your role too. It's a live studio audience. You know what I mean? Hey.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ulises, today we got a treat for you guys. You know what I mean? It's hold on one second. Excuse me, listen. Hold on. Today we got a treat for you guys. As life has a way of showing you, I've been able to see through my life who are some of the best people that have the best intentions for me. You know what I mean? Our next guest interview that's coming on tonight, he's definitely a special guest. We're like this, you know what I mean? We go way back. Y'all might know him, some may, but I want to introduce him to some others that may not. But before I do, I just want to say this brother has been he has been a part of the narrative of God's plan of growth for my life when it comes to being a man of valor, a man of integrity, a husband of integrity, a preacher of integrity. No matter, one thing he's taught me is that it's not what it looks like. It is what sometimes it's what you can't see that's developing what you are seeing. But I just want to say, this brother is my brother. You know what I mean? My family know about him. Anybody who knows me has heard his name before. You've probably heard me say something great about him. And he has recently been in the news, been in the tabloids, not TMZ, but maybe, I don't know what he's been in, but you know what I mean? The story's been all over, and I'm sure some of you guys have heard some of the rumors that are out there, how what's going on with his family life, what's going on in his ministry life, his mental health. There may have been things that you may have had questions on. And today we're going to try to get to the bottom of some of those answers. So without further ado, I want to welcome each and every one of y'all to not only the F.I.R.M Podcast's story time segment, but I want you to give a warm applause for our guest host, Ulises Vargas. I hear y'all clapping.
Beautiful.
I hear y'all clapping.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Ignore the studio audience. But hey, Ulises, how you doing, man?
What's going on?
Glad to have you, man. Thanks so much for being here tonight.
Oh man, love the introduction, man. Love the intro, man. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be part of what God is doing in the lives of His people.
Up, man. That's what's up, man. And no doubt that you have your finger on the pulse most times that I talk to you on current events and things that are going on, with God and spiritual things that are happening in the earth. And even in the midst of, you taking on your calling, standing up to the integrity or the character or the anointing on your life, there's still some regular, everyday experiences that you also, as a man of God, go through. So I want to kind of backtrack from the dynamic and the supernatural, and I want to just get to know you and your story, man. So let's start with introduce yourself to the people. You know what I mean? Where were you born? And where was your upbringing before you became a man?
Yes, I was born in Puerto Rico. I know this makes sense. 1978, people.
Woo!
Man, 43 years ago, going on 44 in a few months.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But it's my father was military, so literally spent most of my childhood, for at least a good, I say 10 years of my childhood in Germany is where I spent most of my time. So I went from, for those who are not familiar with Germany, it's a whole lot of, it's kind of like America, a whole lot of different cities, a whole lot of different spots. There ain't no states. You won't no states in Europe, in Germany, but you will get. So I went from Babenhausen, Munster to Schwäbisch Gmünd to Giebelstadt to Würzburg, and so just kind of we made our rounds in Germany for sure. We made it, but great childhood, fun childhood for sure.
Yeah. So you're nationwide out here at a young age. You know what I mean?
International.
At a young age. You know what I mean? And let me just ask you, from a citizen of the United States of America, like, what did that experience? Did that play a role in you growing up or development, as far as the way you might have been thinking about the landscape wherever you were at?
Absolutely. No, like when you're a military brat, like you deal with all races. Like for the most part, us as kids had no idea what racism was. None, zero. We hung out with the blacks as much as we did with the whites and the Hispanics and the Asians, whatever the case is. The only issue that we had in Germany were the German kids. We used to fight with German kids all the time because they didn't like Americans and we didn't like the Germans. So, but outside of that, man, like racism, there was none of that, man. Like, when we finally moved back to the United States in 1992, I was going to my 8th grade year. And literally, y'all, like, we were all naive, we was all innocent. All of a sudden, we were seeing gang violence and you can't wear this color in this part of the hood. Like, we're like, what is, like, we thought this was just a
culture shock.
Culture shock, man.
I can relate.
We went to El Paso, man, and quick story, my brother, my parents had went to the swap meet, they bought us these LA Kings, like hockey jerseys, LA Kings.
Okay.
Unbeknownst to us, my brother decided to wear one and just go out, just walk in the neighborhood, see what he could find. And two Mexican gangsters came up to him and was like, what say you from, cuz?
Oh, I had no idea.
No idea. They wanted to, my brother took off that jersey, threw it at him, and just took off. He ran home. And we're like, yeah, we definitely not wearing this. In this part of the neighborhood, so that was like our welcome to America.
Got you. It's always a good story. You know what I'm saying? Anytime I talk to somebody,
send us back to Germany, please. That's how.
Hey, you know what I mean? Sometimes ain't no going back. We all got to come this way. But that's what's up, man. So growing up internationally, due to your parents' decisions and things like that. Let me ask you, like, what were some of the values and different things that your parents might have instilled with you that still play a role in your life today?
Yeah, my parents got saved in 1986.
Okay.
So from 86 to all the way up until I graduated high school and even further than that, they try to instill in us, the Christian values, Christian, morals and things of that nature. And so, just, they made us, they locked us in our rooms, it feels like, for an hour with the Bible open, read your Bible for 1 hour and you were stuck in your room, you couldn't do nothing, you had to play, within that hour. And so, as kids, we were sneaking comic books and put it under our pillow before it was Bible time. And so we'll have the comic books out instead of the Bible. But then, my mama ain't dumb. She knew, because all of a sudden the comic book was no longer under the pillow. It was missing, but she didn't say nothing. She didn't, yell at us, whatever the case was, because she knew we were kids. But prayer time was crazy. We did Bible study at least a couple times a month. At the dinner table, just things that, my dad and my mom tried to instill in us. Just Bible knowledge. At the time, it was just Bible knowledge.
Bible knowledge, Bible morality, based off of Christian faith, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir.
Holy Bible, scriptures. And did they go into ministry, or did they ever volunteer in churches, or did they just were they attendees?
Yeah, initially first they were attendees, but my dad did have a call upon his life to be a pastor. So like he got saved in 86, and I would say like in 88, 89, he was already pastoring the church.
Oh wow.
And so
I swooped him, snatched him up
real quick, like not unbeknownst to us as children, the life of a pastor's kid will be quite an adventure, for sure. And so, like, even when my dad got orders to go to El Paso, like, we wasn't in the church that we found like 6 months, and they already wanted him to be pastor. So my dad was pastor for about 10 years, I would say, in El Paso, before he stepped down. And
congratulations on a decade of public ministry. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Keep the faith.
Absolutely. So the whole pastorship and and they were great. They did an amazing job with the knowledge that they had, with the ability that they could do. They were.
Did you feel any type of? Did you feel any type of sense of? I don't know. You know, sometimes when you feel like, or when you go through, for some people whose parents kind of inspire to do things that are outside of the box, outside of the norm, and get involved in public service in any way, especially the one that has the nature, a profession that has the nature of a supernatural nature tied to it. But sometimes those can become big shoes to fill. Did you ever feel like the life that you was watching or witnessing would one day you would walk in those footsteps, or was this kind of like this just what my family makes us do?
For sure. It was one of those like I'm just here for the ride, y'all. Like I'm here because I have to be. You know,
right.
You know, my father was military, so you know the idea of being at church early was already was crazy as it was. And now that he was pastor, he was there early. When that first one's there, the last one to leave every church service. You know what I mean? So it's like this life is not for me. You know, like because like like especially in a Hispanic culture where religion is so prominent. You know, it's so prominent, man. And so it's like literally. Like we had no cable. We couldn't watch. We could barely watch antenna TV, but definitely no cable. You know, every music in the house had to be Christian. It was vetted by my parents. Who's this? What type of message are they saying?
Cable TV is the devil.
It was. It was like
I said it was.
Man, I couldn't even play sports in high school.
I'm not making light of your trauma.
Yeah, I couldn't even play sports in high school. I couldn't even play sports in high school because it interfered with church. Oh, what time is practice?
Yeah.
Up to 8 o'clock? Oh no, we got church. Sorry, you can't do that. You know?
got church.
So it was man, I did not want to do it. I mean, the moment I told myself, the moment I get out of the house, man, I'm because like we had to wear church clothes, you know, the church slacks, church shirts, like we was forced to.
Oh man. Don't get me to flashing back and showing
man, you know that
pictures of me and my brother.
They get that tick in that neck, like you had to wear, you know, church clothes and
I look like a young car salesman. I was out there.
right.
Whose kid is this with all this shoulder pad going on?
Oh man! And look in the 80s and 90s, and that's all the females had with them dresses with them shoulder pads.
Shoulder pads on everything, boy. On the women, on the men.
That's hilarious.
Like straight lines on your shoulder. You know what I'm saying? But that's what's up, man. Not to get sidetracked, but I was trying to kind of alley-oop that moment because knowing you, and those of us who do know, you know that you went into the military, that you talk about your veteran experience, your ex-military experience and everything. I believe you joined young. When did you join the military?
Yeah, straight out of high school. 18
straight
years
out
old.
of high school, you were about what, 18, 19? Or?
18 years old, yes, sir.
18 years old, and you enlisted in that army. You know, you would think the way that the public discusses in the media and on social media alike about the armed services, and you know, most people are like, well, they got to have a great reason. Listening to your story about how you know you were at the church lock-ins, and you know you was you was involved in all the programs, and first one in, last one out type situation. Like, what would make somebody go from one extreme to another? Like lockdown to lockdown. Like you said, the path that your dad was on as far as ministry was definitely not your route. So what was it about the military that was like, hey, this is a better choice?
Oh man, for me, it's like my dad. I love my dad, y'all. I promise, I do. But he made it seem like it was the only choice I had, you know, because at the time I was dating my ex-wife, so it was like, hey, you want to marry her? Military.
How long had you been dating by this point?
I say about a year and a half, 2 years. You know, for like a year and a half to 2. 2 years.
Year and a half to two. This is during high school, I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah. She belonged to a different high school. She had just graduated, and
Okay.
I was just a sophomore in high school.
She had already graduated.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you go to her graduation and all that, or was she over there showing you all? Look at my little young tenderoni.
Yeah, she did go to my graduation when I finally graduated. High school and that stuff.
You didn't go to hers.
No, I didn't even know her until after.
Okay, I got you. But it was the year she graduated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how did you meet this graduate?
Through a church youth camp, like place called Kennedy, Texas, which was like 9 hours away from El Paso. Like we both lived in the same city. El Paso was
You were supposed to be there meeting the Lord, bro.
I know.
But go ahead. No judgment here. Go ahead.
But yeah, we ended up meeting out there in Kennedy, Texas, because her church group and our church group met together, and then we just drove out
Like
there.
a summer camp type thing? Or?
Yeah. It was maybe like a Wednesday to like a Saturday, and then we ended up driving back home. So that's how we met for sure.
And it was nap time, and you was like, look at over there.
Well, no, actually, she's the one who found me first.
Oh, yeah. You one of them guys. No, I was
right.
He was like, huh. He was like,
so.
So by the time you're going in the military, your dad is hitting you with this, like, hey, let me tell you where this is going. Either it's going to the army, or you tell me,
or you're not gonna get married. That's pretty much how that's how it felt. That's how it felt, man. It was like military is the way to go, and if you don't go to the military, good luck. You know what I mean? So I was like, military it is, I guess. I mean,
Oh, man. Okay.
But join the military, man, and because it was my first taste of freedom. It was away from the parents, and you know how basic training is and all that wonderful stuff, and we got AITs and ASI, so it was a whole lot of traveling. But Fort Campbell, Kentucky was my first duty station, man, and at that time period, I was
Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
I was already engaged, and
was born in Kentucky.
What was that?
Fort Campbell, I believe. I said my brother, I believe, was born in Fort Campbell. And he was born in Kentucky to military parents. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's two bases. There's either there's Fort Campbell or Fort Knox, over there in Kentucky. But
Fort Knox. I don't know. Go ahead.
But yeah. But I was already engaged at the time, man. I ended up getting married. And we got married by court in December, right after AIT.
Okay, so you went through your military training, basic training. They done took you and all your stress, your pressure from your pops, marriage looming on the horizon. They done took you through basic and AIT and transformed you from a civilian to a soldier. You know what I'm saying? And coming out of this period, you're getting ready to go to your duty station after training, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So in between that period, you married her?
Yep. Married by court in December of 97. Then we ended up getting married by church ceremony in May of 98.
Mm-hmm. 2 is always better than 1. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah.
3 is even better. No, go ahead. Inside joke. Inside. I'm going too far. The interview is about you. So you make this decision. So now you're going through this transition in life, and not only are you concerned about the man that you're going to be, the family contention that may have lingered a little bit, because you know how that is. Sometimes we grow up and leave the house, and we still have those like, "Oh, if I was this tall, oh, if I was this old, I should have said." But either way, that contention inside of you and a marriage, brand new marriage. So you're going into the military. What's that like?
Definitely a brand new experience for sure. It was my first taste of the real world. Really like the military. You already know the rumors and the wars and rumors of wars.
Did you feel like you were coming in with a lot of baggage?
I
Or
felt no. I really felt like I came in with like just figuring it out.
okay,
I
feeling
felt
your
like
way through it.
yeah, just figuring my way through it, trying to swim my way through it. It was just one of the things. I think like the military life was definitely, especially when I got to my first duty station, it was not what I expected it to be. I expected it to be like basic training and the AIT. Regiment, order, rule, bedtime, wake up time.
Laying the
People,
law down at all times.
and literally, man, my first formation that Monday morning PT, some dude come down with a full grown beard coming off the lead talking about he ain't shaving. Nothing like beard. And I'm just
It
like,
wasn't me, was it? I mean, never mind.
but I was just like, this
It wasn't as strict
I
as
was
you
shocked.
anticipated.
I was shocked, bro. I was just like, I'm looking around like looking at everybody like, is this what's going on right now? What's happening?
The first taste of freedom.
Oh man, I was like, this is
Free.
yeah. So it was definitely a brand new experience, man. But there was a lot of freedom, So it was just like, finally brought the wife down to Fort Campbell. We moved in, and the first thing we did was find a church. But like the freedom to even not go if I didn't want to, or wear what I wanted to wear. That was my biggest thing. I'll go to church, but I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I'm going in jeans and a t-shirt. That's all.
Right. Definitely ain't wearing no shoulder pad with a suit on it.
Some high water slacks.
Right. How long did that phase last? Did you go your first year? Did you wait a year? Did you wait 2 years?
Pretty much. When I brought the wife down, the ex-wife, when I brought her down, we found the church right away.
So you went by yourself for a little while.
No, nope. I was already like, my mindset was already like, I'm out here. I'm good. But when she came down, it was basically like, hey, we need to go to church, and I'm like, fine. Let's find a church or whatever the case is.
So she reeled you in.
Yeah. Like
let me ask you this, man, on a if you don't mind me doing a segue type of deep dive, man, because sometimes a lot of people hear about our public experience, our public persona, what the masses or the majority of people may know based off of what they see. But sometimes everything that you see is not always what you're getting. Sometimes there's some things, if you look a little closer, or if a person decides to open up a little bit, that you'll find out are taking place beneath the surface. So even though we know that you've been in the military, you just talked about how you was a preacher's kid. The lifestyle of strictness versus the chains is loose. The cage is you can't see a bar if you know what I'm saying, unless you wrap one. Is you're free. Do you think, because sometimes, man, relationships can take a background seat to experiences, public experiences. So let me just ask you, you know what I'm saying? Because the people want to know. Do you feel like if you would have started that marriage and stayed in the civilian sector, there may have been a difference at the beginning of the marriage versus starting a whole new life together in a whole different place?
I think to be honest, man, if I would have not joined the military, we probably would not have gotten married.
If you hadn't gone to the military,
correct. There was even a small time period before I left Fort Campbell that I actually was telling her, like, like I started getting that cold feet, that cold feet syndrome,
It happens. It happens to the best of them.
Where I told her, I said, look, I said, I feel like I'm 18 years old, like I just feel like we need more time. And then she ended up breaking off the engagement. She broke everything off that night. Or it was sad, whatever the case was, cried, and so I was like, you know what, fine, she didn't want to respect that. It is what it is. Then that morning, I woke up super early the next morning, man, and I just I felt something tell me to leave the house, just go for a drive, just go out, do something.
Okay.
But I didn't go. I stayed in my room, and then all of a sudden I get at 8 o'clock that morning, get a knock on the door, and it was the ex-wife. Because she was there to supposedly give the ring back. But to make a long story short, it was a situation where, I was made to feel bad.
So the purpose of her showing up unannounced was to return the ring.
Correct.
But that's not what happened.
That's not what happened.
You guys had an exchange. You guys had a moment, or she took that opportunity to have more of a conversation?
Absolutely.
And it was emotional between the both of you?
It definitely was. It wasn't like I didn't love her.
Right.
I just felt like I just wasn't ready. But
right.
But again, like the conversation that followed was more of guilt tripped it into a situation where it was like, you know what? Because I'm looking at her crying in the living room, just crying and pulling away. So I was like, you know what? Let's get married. Let's get married today. And so
and the biggest part of her, I guess her motivation for crying out to you was what? That you had ended it, or that you were uncertain if you wanted to commit to that degree?
She had ended it, and
because of your
indecisiveness. In my hesitancy. Yeah, we'll call it indecisiveness because I'm 18 years old.
Real experience.
So
in the midst of the emotion, you felt emotionally obligated to make good on something that you started, finish something that you started, or what?
To be honest, the only thing I can really say is that I felt guilty. I felt really bad because I'm looking at her crying and at 18 years old, I wasn't thinking fully, with the wisdom that God's given me now.
Yeah.
To be why are you crying if you're the one that broke up with me? It was more like you're crying and I feel bad because I'm the reason why you're crying. So you know what? Let's do something that will make you happy. Let's go ahead and get married. Let's do it. So
and even the way that you just said that, the tone, the expression, oftentimes when there is something that is out of control emotionally, it's easier to slap a Band-Aid over the wound than it is to treat it first. You see it very often, kids, the doctors, nurses, teachers will tell you, wash the wound off first. Saying get something that you can put on it to help it heal if it's dependent on the degree of the cut. Try to avoid infection. But oftentimes what most people do, they can still be leaking. Just give me a Band-Aid. Slap the bandage on it. And what they're focused on is stopping what's leaking, what's spilling out, as opposed to the consideration of the future of the wound. Because if you were thinking about the future, you wouldn't think about just stopping the leakage. You would be thinking about the infection, what could happen later and tomorrow, and things like that. So sounds to me like you slapped a bandage on it in your mind and was like, let's heal this wound.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, because the story, I'm sure, is epic, and we here at the firm, you share certain testimonies, certain stories about your private life with us. So those of you who watch know certain stories. So I just want to fast forward for the listening audience, the viewing audience, whether on Facebook or YouTube. We appreciate you guys. We're here with Ulises Vargas, host of a popular Kingdom show called the F.I.R.M podcast. You know what I mean? He's on there with his best friend, the best host a guy could ever hope for. You know what I mean? And they're doing their thing. But we've heard a lot about it. But we're here today getting up close and personal with Ulises Vargas. If you missed anything, we encourage you to go back and watch the rest of the show. But we're getting ready to, when you get the ball uphill, and what goes up must come down. And
let's do it.
Based off of some of the things that you were alluding to, it was an ex-wife, is what you're calling her presently. You're saying that things did not begin, whether they started rocky or the road got smooth sometimes or not. It didn't last, according to what you shared. So
Yes,
my question would be to you, having a different testimony now, your testimony including an ex-wife, like, let's just say the tail end. You know how they do the Passion of Christ, the last days.
Yes, sir.
Was it an amicable split? Was there contention, drama?
There definitely was a lot of contention. There definitely was a lot of drama.
So it was an ugly
one. It didn't end well. And literally, like, I can say, like, I wasn't the best husband initially, for sure. And
the time frame, you guys were married how long?
We were married for 23 years.
Wow.
So when I separated, when we separated, 23 years.
Don't you ever say this man can't commit to something.
Man.
All right. 20-something years.
Y'all have no idea. No idea.
You're right.
But
so
man,
that much time coming to a closure, what were some of those last days like? Were they easy on your mind? Were you losing sleep? Let us know.
I would say, looking back on it now, like I was dealing with a lot with depression. I was dealing a lot with feeling of self-worth. Like I was saying, like I had made a lot of mistakes early on in the marriage, and I was like
early in what, the first 5, the first 10,
like on and off of the first 10 for sure. And then like the last half of the marriage, God really
5% of it.
God really changed my life, changed my heart around. Really began making amends for all the wrongs that I have done, to become a better man, better husband, better father. And
your reputation changed.
Everything changed. I went from just serving in the church wherever I could to becoming being ordained as a minister, to like a year and a half later being ordained as a pastor.
Wow.
So it wasn't like, anything that could be like, I've changed. Look at me, I've changed. No, it was visible. The fruit was revealed, fruit was shown. And just and that whole journey of learning about God's love and God's grace really just changed my whole life around for sure.
And what were some of the hardest aspects, because it takes two to tango in a relationship. Let me say on the other side of the field. Did it feel like warfare? Did it just feel like disagreements?
No,
what were you going through?
Man. I was going through a lot, and I was going through a lot in a way that I wasn't sharing with nobody. I kept, I always believed and doing my best to protect the four walls of my house. I always believed in protecting, whoever I'm with, in love with, friendship, whatever the case is. I always do my best to protect them, even if they're wrong, And so I dealt with a lot of stuff internally. I dealt again with there was a lot of unforgiveness in her part, a lot of bitterness, a lot of hurt.
Do you blame her for the outcome of things?
I blame the both of us, in the way that the marriage ended.
But usually, sometimes a person deep down inside feels like somebody did. So we're trying to get to that deep down inside part for the night's over because you promised the people that you
Yeah,
would open up. So
absolutely, yes, sir.
did you blame her for
I
not being able to
I definitely blame
reconcile or get it
definitely
together?
yeah, I definitely blame her in the sense that she could not forgive.
Could
She
not forgive what you had
done
previously
correct.
done.
She could not forgive. She, in my opinion, she didn't want to forgive. There was it was, again, in my opinion, it was more of, that victim role was so prominent, and it was the only way that she could have control. Because it was always like, you're doing this, and if you want to stay with me, then you got to do that. So like toward the later years when I started realizing that no matter what I did to try to prove myself, um, it was never going to be enough. It was always something else, always something else. And no matter how hard I tried, and like I even had a dream with her, and then this dream that I had, me and her were walking with the Lord, and the Lord told me to lay my hands on her. Um, and so when I laid my hands on her, she started falling under the power of the Spirit. And then I took my hands off of her. And then the Lord asked her, do you believe that I'm using him now? And she looked at me, she looked at God, and she said, no, I don't. And so I woke up that morning. I told her about the dream. And she looked at me and she said, yeah, I don't believe God is using you. And so I was just like, so that was definitely one of the turning points of like, if God can't prove to her, then why am I using every strength that I can to do it? So that was
did
definitely
it hurt somewhere on the inside? If you don't have to admit or not, but did it hurt knowing that you did have a past where you weren't the most faithful person, but God had so evidently, in your opinion and in the opinion of others, changed your life around? Did it hurt feeling like you weren't getting credit for the change?
it did hurt. It because it's like when you strive for something, when you accomplish something, and everybody else can see it, but the one who you really want to see it is refusing to. And it's not like she never said, like she at times she'll be like, thank you for changing. I'm seeing the change in your life. Thank God for that. La la la. And then in the next argument, be like, let me bring up the past and all the dirt, and you're a piece of whatever. So it was a lot of that. It was a lot of that back and forth. It was,
Blame
you're
game.
doing great, but then an argument would happen, and it'd be like back to square one all over again, for sure.
Yeah, man. The relationships You know, I could say the cliche thing that it doesn't come with a rule book. It doesn't come with instructions, but there's so many people out there profiting, making money off of, 10 steps to a successful marriage and 5 steps, 5 changes that a husband can make to satisfy his spouse, and even to the physical, you know what I mean, and all aspects of relationships. And somehow, with all of this literature, all of this knowledge about relationships, they can be at times fleeting.
Mm.
And so, even though we talked about the pressure to marry, we talked about as you transition from this Christian household to a free household, how in the beginning of the relationship, it sounds to me as if some of that freedom played a role in some of the options that you may have chosen. And you developed a reputation that your ex-spouse refused to let go of, even though she would stand beside you in your change. You had pictures and different things during the time where your family members were on stage, involved in ministry, standing together. However, internally, there was some things stewing,
Mhm.
and sometimes the environment that we go in can play a huge role in decisions and choices that we're making in life. And I think that your story is a great example of that, because one of the things that you said while you were talking was that you don't even know if you would have made the same decisions had you not gone into the military.
True.
Just a simple change of location, certain changes we can underestimate how detrimental or how much of a change they can establish in our life that you may never be able to escape, or maybe that issue will show up later on, somewhere in the narrative. We appreciate you being transparent about that situation, because a lot of people have um, heard you espouse um, feeling like you're being treated unfairly, that people are discussing the man you became in God in an unflattering way. Did you ever feel, when those rumors and those posts and those community of friends and old friends were discussing, did you ever feel a sense of betrayal, and why?
Yes, I did, for sure. It's when you're dealing with a reputation. It's easy for someone to believe the worst about you when you have a reputation about you. Um, I was an assistant pastor at a local church, and one of the biggest things that I could say really, struck me to the core, um, was was the betrayal that I felt from, um, the leadership that was there. Um, when
At
when
the
we
church
first at the church,
you guys attended? Okay.
when we first separated, um, I just couldn't fathom being at the same church as this woman, who at that time I felt like was just. I mean, it got to the point where even my own daughter was like, "Dad, I think it's time. You really need to, leave mom, because she's not right." Um, and so the way that I left, you know, um, definitely struck a nerve with a whole lot of people. Um, and so it got to the point where where I can say that I would make calls to my senior pastor, and he wasn't returning calls. Um, it took him 2 weeks to get back to me, and the only reason why he got back with me was because he had to make a decision whether or not I was going to remain pastor. And so when I told him that I could not be at the same church that she was, then he was like, then I guess you're no longer pastor. And I was like, I guess not, you know. You know, I told him some things, you know, and I told him basically like to, you know, that I just couldn't do it, couldn't stay there, whatever the case is, and that was that, you know. So that was the like the first sense of what I feel like was betrayal, to where none of the other associate pastors called to check in, and based on how it's operated, based on how I've seen it operated, you know, instructions were given not to reach out, and so
I'm assuming there was a situation while you were in good standing at the church that was the instruction given to you.
Correct.
To not reach out to somebody.
Correct.
And that's so you understood the protocol and how they were
absolutely. So and then certain friendships that I had, some close relationships that I had, they stopped reaching out. They, you know, and some of the, you know, what I feel like some of the saddest excuses that you would hear, you know, the Lord said not to reach out to you. You know, and I'm just like, you know, for somebody who is in need, that's the farthest thing that God would ever say. It wasn't like God was leading me to a reprobate mind, which Paul's like, let it be, you know. You know, and so it was definitely tough, you know, like I said earlier, like, you know, if I'm one of the core leaders of the church, and if it's being felt that I'm struggling and going through stuff, the last thing anybody should be doing is avoiding calls. So some friendships died out. You know, just no longer was the friendship that I had initially.
Did not stand the test and trial.
Did not. And so that hurt, you know what I'm saying? And then then the ex-wife started going on social medias, posting things.
Because you guys were local public figures.
Yeah.
Understood.
And so
it's you know, it's one thing a lot of times people in the private sector, people, you know, they talk about what it's like, or when they somebody puts their business out on social media. And it's one thing when the people that know you find out what your business is. Somehow you done spilled the beans and you're like, oh, now I gotta go talk to my aunties and my uncles and my cousins and everybody know. I'm so embarrassed. It's a whole nother thing when you're in a public position where even strangers know your name. That even people that you're not aware of may follow you socially or social media because you stand beside this leader, or because they saw you at this community thing, or because, you know, you served in some way. And so sometimes the scope of putting people's business out on social media, it can go a lot further. And that affected you, is what you're saying, that you felt the effect of, did people join in with her, or did you feel like she was just kind of gaslighting the situation, or
no, people definitely joined in with her, and it was at a time period where that God had already given me instructions to stay quiet, to not retaliate. You know, God had given me instructions to do certain things. Like an example, she would go out on social media, talk about that how hard it is being a single mom, and I only knew this because of what people were actually inboxing me and telling me, that she was complaining how hard it was to be a single mom, and that I wasn't there for the children. Except what she didn't tell people was that God had given me specific instructions to pay for literally for everything in that house, except for the water bill. That's the only thing that I didn't pay minus the groceries. She didn't have to worry about the mortgage. She didn't have to worry about her car payment, her car insurance. She didn't have to worry about the electricity. She didn't have to worry about nothing. I was pouring in between $1,500 to $2,000 a month in a house that I not stay in for at least a year.
And nobody even knew it.
And nobody knew. And she was making it known that she didn't want nobody to know.
And I'm assuming, since knowing you and your story, that you guys have been to court, have discussed certain things that in the past others may have not known of or not even believed, like you just saying, spending, paying for certain things even while you're not there. A lot of that came to light in court.
It did.
Is a lot of things that you were telling me that, a lot of people probably thought you were lying about.
No, it came out in court. It's right there, where she had to acknowledge that I did, and that whole story right there is, whew. I saw a question earlier about, have you forgiven her in my heart? And oh my God,
we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. Okay, we'll get there.
No. Go ahead. Answer now.
No, but y'all, man, within the first 19 months, I poured in at least $35,000 I gave $35,000 to her within the first 19 months. Mm-hmm. This is all public. This is all court stuff.
We're not bragging. We're just having a moment, y'all. Story time.
Yeah, and so there was a judge order. For that was from what was my understanding was for a few months of paying what they call the PSS, which is the post-spousal support, which I given child support plus what, she basically wanted $2,000 a month. She wanted $1,000 for Caleb, for my son, and $1,000 for her. The judge ordered that I pay $800 for child support and $250 to her, which came out to like $1,050. At that time period, I was going through a lot of medical issues with the post office. I could no longer physically keep up with the demands of the postal service because COVID had hit, and it was just, I ended up getting an MCL tear. My left knee, had to get that repaired. They wouldn't let me recover the way that I was supposed to. All this is all documented in court as well. Yeah. And so, at that time period, I was already with somebody, and so based on everything,
so you guys had gone y'all separate ways, but you were still working things out in court.
Correct.
Behind the scenes, while you've been publicly going forward, this has been going on for over a year.
Correct.
Behind the scenes. But you guys have moved on according to North Carolina law. You can file for separation, and there's and they allow you to separate, but all of the court stuff can still be pending or lingering over your head.
Yeah.
They'll even grant you divorce.
North Carolina law is you have to be separated at least 1 year before you file for divorce, which is beyond crazy, but it is what it is, and so, but it's also a clause in there where if there is no chance of reconciling the marriage, then you're allowed to move forward with whoever you want to, and it would not be considered as adultery.
So you're moving on or attempting to move on.
Yes.
And still you got this situation in the background. And we could go all night because I where you headed right now is part 2. It's chapter 2. I don't know what chapter it is. But if we get into that, we'll be here all night. So we are going to say, and I'm going to say as well, man, I definitely appreciate you taking this interview. I know that you have wanted to talk about certain things that you're going through. You know, sometimes when you're going through stuff, you can come across to people in your conversation like you're blaming everybody for your problems and not taking any responsibility for your actions.
Right.
And do you feel like, real quick, that there are people who still to this day maybe feel like you're not taking responsibility for what you've done?
I mean,
Like you deserve all of this because of what you've done.
right.
Or have people kind of let go of that?
That's that's a very good question. I know, I not that social media is real life, but I lost a lot of I lost a lot of friends Facebook wise, Facebook
Yeah.
and Instagram wise.
Friends, followers,
Right.
all of that.
They totally believed whatever story that she gave. And so, but the one thing that is the truth that she cannot deny is my mom ended up taking her to a women's conference. And in that women's conference, the lady that was preaching um, had a word from the Lord for her.
Who told you
And
this? You were
my
there too?
no, my mom.
Oh, so your mother told you this?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, and my mom is a trusted source. She's not going to make up stuff to make me feel better. Because at that time period, right. I was super depressed, man. But
She
she
calls
called.
you and tells you about this
Yeah,
church hurt.
she called me up and she said, "I just want you to know that God is fighting your battles." And she proceeded to say that the word that this lady gave her was that both of us were at fault in the marriage, but that the Lord held her more responsible because she couldn't control her tongue. She couldn't control her mouth. She couldn't forgive and all the other things. And they went on to say, and don't speak evil about him to your children. For the children and Ulises, their ministry are tied together. And unfortunately, she did the complete opposite. She brought the children into it. She seduced, she manipulated the whole situation to where I didn't even have contact with my kids for several months because of the whole ordeal, which was devastating. And so the whole question of could I forgive her? Did I forgive her? I could say now I have. But while we was doing a podcast every Saturday and preaching every Sunday, I was struggling, because, like I was saying earlier, the $35,000 that I gave apparently wasn't enough for Monica. She wanted the court ordered that I had to pay $2,000 more, and threw me in jail until I was able to pay that. Which was, so it was just like a lot of anger, a lot of hurts, a lot like, this went too far. And that's when I first realized, like, I have an enemy. I have an enemy. I have a real enemy, not one of those haters or one of those people who just want to talk crazy, but I have somebody in my life who was intentionally, maliciously trying to destroy me. And for a minute, it looked like she did. I was going to the VA. I was diagnosed with severe depression, PTSD. taking antidepressants, the whole nine. All the while trying to encourage other people, trying to bless other people and speak life, encourage them when I was going through my own stuff. And never batted an eye on that. Like did my best to not let anybody know, the things that I was going through. And so it was one of them situations, man. Like I stand here today, healing. I'm still healing. From the separation to now, the main purpose of the enemy was to get me to kill myself. I felt suicidal. I had them suicidal thoughts. I had the thoughts of, man, who cares if I die? And so, cause my daughter, she was pregnant, grandkids, there was even a time period where she was like, you're not going to see your grandkids. So it was a whole lot of stuff, man, that was meant to destroy. And the whole time I'm just like, God, I'm trying my best to be obedient here. Right. I've done what you asked, and I feel like there's no reward for it. You know what I mean? Like there is nothing good coming out of me being obedient. I felt like I was taking the loss after loss, and and so like I've had to, I was at a point where I was homeless for a few days, had no place to stay, and the faithfulness of God just kicked in.
Man, I hate to do it, you guys. I hate to do it because you've touched on two issues that I know are a continuation. And, listening to what you were saying, I'm sure I'm not the only one who caught the fact that you kind of danced around the question of forgiving her in your heart. You skated. You was ice skating around it. And I can tell because of the tension in your conversation that it is it's a sensitive area in your life. Standing on that. Now we can all say, forget about preaching to the choir, we're preaching to the preachers. The power of forgiveness, you know what I mean? And how the Bible says or teaches so often about forgiveness, to judge not lest you be judged, condemn not, and you shall not be condemned, forgive and you shall be forgiven. Forgive others, even as Christ forgave you, so also do you. And that's in Luke and Colossians. But there's so many different scriptures that leaders in this kingdom faith discuss. And it's always said that you need to practice what you preach. And so I know that that's a part of the story that we didn't get to touch on as much. You alluded to certain things, that the instructions that you were hearing, but we really want to get in a little bit more next time. We get an opportunity to sit down and have story time with Ulises Vargas. We really want to touch on where you are in your heart with forgiveness in a situation, because from what I know and from what you've showed, it's hard to say a conclusive answer about something that you're still in the middle of. And the situation not being over, there's levels to separations.
Well, if I could be honest, like, I can honestly say that I have forgiven her, because, and the reason why I say that is because I have been, I've taught about it so much, what I'm saying? And it's like, once you truly experience what an enemy, like a true enemy actually is, somebody who is malicious, and the Lord is saying, that's who I want you to love.
Mm.
That's who I want you to bless. That's who I want you to, if they ask for your shirt, give them your jacket.
Mm.
That's who it is. And I was like, Lord, like, now that I feel what an enemy is, how is that even possible?
Mm.
Like, this lady here literally tried to take everything that I have, things that she knows that she don't deserve.
Tried or is still trying?
Still trying. But
Okay.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, and I appreciate you saying that, because
I got something else at the end of this. Go ahead.
because I just came back from a court session last month or earlier this month, or when I don't even remember anymore. It's been so many, it's been ridiculous. But it was at a place and a point where I was just like, Lord, like, I had even reached out to her, and I was like, because she had reached out to me first, and she was like, hey, I want to settle this. Let's go ahead and settle this. The Lord bills are piling up, and I'm like, well, you're the reason why we went to court in the first place. You did not want to be amicable. You did not want to be reasonable with anything that I was trying to offer to avoid having to go to court. And she was like adamant on that $2,000 a month, knowing I could not afford it. Going through COVID in 2020, working for the post office, we was working like 15-hour days. And she was able to get a hold of the paychecks that I was making through an ally. I'll leave it like that. And she was able to be like, well, this is what I want, and I'm not going to change. I'm not going to move. And I was like, but I can't afford it. I said, well, when things go back to 8-hour days, 40-hour weeks. And she was like, well, I'll let you deal with that in court when it comes time to that. So that was her mindset. That was her mentality. She had no qualms about, because she felt like how dare you end this relationship when you're the one who's done me wrong this whole time. So I totally understood where she was coming from, what she was trying to do. But it's the opposite of what a believer should be doing in the first place. And so when it came to forgiving her, it took me months, because I got thrown in jail back in December or January. Can't remember anymore. And it took me like a good 5 months to really come to that place of, okay, if you want to reason, let's reason. And I was even like, whatever it is that you want, you tell me. And then she was like, okay, well, let's have a conversation. And I never responded back to her, because I understood when that response came through, like, I understood that there was still no reasoning with her. We went to court, and it was the same stuff. Stuff. Like, they accused me of lying about things, and then find out that I wasn't lying about stuff. She was misleading. She was lying. She wasn't telling the full truth. And it was super obvious to everybody who was actually in there. So we're at a place now. So I had to ask God, if you're giving me these messages about forgiveness, Lord, I need to be able to do what you have led me to say. And so I approached court last week. Because of my living situation, for those who don't know, I've been in a hotel literally for 7 months, paid for by the job, because I'm out here training people. Like, it's a blessing. Like, the story of even that is just amazing, how God was faithful to my needs. And I was able to save money. I was able to to save up for a rainy day and going to court. Like, God gave us specific instructions on how much to give her, And at first I was like, Lord, you know, you know, she don't deserve nothing. But God was like, what does my word tell you? If they ask for your shirt, give them your jacket as well. So I was able to give a certain amount of dollars to her that was more than what they were expecting. More than what they were expecting. They were blown away by what I said, and they quickly accepted it. And so that was part of my forgiveness. That was part of my forgiving process for learning how to forgive and healing from that. And this is, outside of what y'all hear tonight, the majority of those who took her side will never hear this story. They will always take her side, and that's fine. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it because she knows the truth. I know the truth. She knows the truth. She may try to spin it. She may try to, deceive. She may try to change the story. She could change the context. It doesn't even matter. Because what I do to forgive has nothing to do with her response, with her reaction.
Man,
because it pleases God at the end of the day.
That's a hard, righteous road. And listening to how firm God was still trying to get you to be. While everybody was talking, he's telling you, be quiet. While you're used to, a certain type of reception, now all of a sudden that reception is totally ruined, not by the people who were in your life before God forgave you, but the people who are on the other side of God's forgiveness of your life, the other side of the change, don't even know that, Ulises. But now, based off of the story, based off of the word of a source, credible or otherwise, a close source, a source that was your spouse, which is, my pastor used to tell me that you can tell if a preacher is really real or not if they're married and you watch their spouse. They're like, if they're up there speaking and talking and their spouse is just like taking it in, that's a good sign. He was like, but if you look out and you see that preacher's wife, she's over there jiggling her keys, looking at her watch, looking at her phone, talking to somebody next to her, asking what scripture we on, or giving you that look like, oh, really? That's what you did in the name of Jesus? Oh, okay. What day was that again? I think I was off that day. But in light of all those things, God is still giving you instructions. God is still telling you what to do, how to navigate. He's still leading and guiding you by his spirit, by his truth. And your testimony, man, of not only where you came from, how you had a broad scope of the world just beginning, but had a very narrow scope of freedom because of what you consider the lockdown or the strictness of your household. But then receiving this broad view of freedom again, but at the same time having a very narrow foundation on a marriage, which is a life-changing event.
Right.
It's a blessing that you have made it through and come through so much that you've been through, bro. I know that standing by your side is not always easy. It has not been easy. Standing close to you got me talked about by people who have never met me. Don't know nothing about me. You know what I'm saying? Your ex barely knew me. But at the same time, standing next to you during that time was like standing with you in the fire. and nobody understanding why you're in the fire and you could see the blaze that the Lord is walking with you. I know that there's more to tell. That's why I wasn't trying to cut you off. I wasn't trying to speed you up. I just know that there is a to be continued. And if you decide, I wanted to give the people where we would pick back up. But before I do that, we did have some great comments that we already put up. I'm just going to read them. Amanda said, remember, you are loved by God and by many new people you have met. Dodie said, yeah, it's hard. I'd be depressed knowing I'd have to forgive. Woo! Forget about the depression. She said she'd be depressed knowing she'd have to forgive, but that's what it takes to set us free. Glenn said there are many levels to forgiveness.
Yes.
That's right. Sometimes a person can have a narrow perspective on forgiveness, having seen it one way. But if you look at the scope of the forgiveness of God, there's a reason why if you Google forgiveness in the Bible, they'll give you 30-something scriptures. Because it's said over and over and over. Amanda also said it takes time to heal and it does not happen overnight. You're right, Amanda. You got that right. Dale also added that he's loving this and this is life-changing. Listen, the Bible, has stirred up a lot of believers. And I heard some of those believers back when I was younger say that God was a mind regulator. He has a way of transforming your mind to get you to a renewed living, something that you could fully give up hope on and somehow still see something brand new. The Bible says God is the God of hope. Man, it says so true. Dale also added that Jesus has a way of humbling us, brother. And Dodie ended with saying, thank God, Ulises, you have a close walk with God. The enemy is always using people to steal, kill, and destroy. The conduits of the working, chaotic hands of the devil sometimes come with friendly, loving, or tearful faces. And it's difficult to go through hardships. Glenn says what? That I'm in a similar place, not divorced, but God has us on a path where we cannot turn to the left or to the right. We must continue in his path no matter what. Jesus is waiting at the end, brother. And
Amen.
Sometimes that light at the end of the tunnel is easier to accept, to embrace when you're at it, when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, or maybe when you came out into the light, you can look back, woo! But sometimes when you feel like you're getting close to the light at the end of the tunnel, but you have experiences where you find out that you're still in the tunnel. Those are some of the most trying times. And so, Ulises, man, I don't fault you for composing yourself so that you can tell us how the instructions of God led you to forgiveness, that it wasn't the actions or the repentance or the change of actions. It was the instructions of God alone that you had to stand on, even if there would be no reward. So, man, I really appreciate you. We appreciate. Don't y'all appreciate Ulises, man? Ulises, man, you know what I mean? This is a better man than me. That's why you went first. You know what I'm saying? So,
but listen,
there's no obligation just because you did. I'm gonna give you the final words. But I'm not going to allow this story time to wrap as if it is a fairy tale, because I know you for real. And I know that you want to encourage somebody today that you are on the other end of your circumstance, brother. And, let me tell you how it was. But the truth is that I know, being your best friend, is that you went through even more after you separated. And the story that you told, that you shared about you getting locked up in the middle of a court session, that actually happened when you wasn't even living there anymore. That actually happened after the divorce was finalized. So, man, I'm not going to obligate you. I'm not going to get your word on it, but I wanted to know, would you be possibly open to doing another story time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, because I know that there is more to what is being said. This specific situation, and we would love to have you back on to do an interview. You know what I'm saying, brother? We appreciate you. Our audience loves you, man. You've been a great guest. You was transparent. You opened up. You spoke some of the hard. You spoke some of the good, but more importantly, you spoke what was real. You know what I mean? And in this fellowship, that's something that we respect and honor, man. So everybody who was here, everybody who will watch this afterward, we truly appreciate you guys not getting unruly or throwing out the craziest, wildest questions. But Ulises, hold on for 1 second. I will. Okay. Ulises had promised for a period of time that he was going to open up. And I'm telling you guys, there is more. There is more to the story. He touched on a couple things, but maybe there's a light at the end of this tunnel. Maybe the story that he started to tell us has a good ending. We don't know, but I want you guys to tune back in next time you see a story time. We're going to pick up on this conversation because there are those out there who say that Ulises is the type of guy that cannot see his wrong. That he's the type of guy that when he lays out the narrative, he did everything God wanted him to do, and some people disagree. And some people listen to him like, oh man, he's just putting sugar on manure. And maybe there's some legitimacy to the people who are saying this. Maybe you heard something on a post. Maybe you heard something publicly and you were like, I don't know. You know, one time I tried to talk to him about seeing, and it was just like he just wouldn't see the wrong. And so if you're interested in just how deep the story goes, I want to ask you to come back because I'm going to ask Ulises some hard-hitting questions. Some questions that maybe some of those other people that he was speaking about would like to ask him. And I hope that they're paying attention to the answers that he's going to be given that day, because it just might shock you, just like tonight, it shocked us. How? Because it blessed us. I was blessed. So we're going to bring Ulises back, you know what I mean? And remember, be here next time. Look out for the next story time. Hey, brother, you know what I'm saying? We're back from commercial. Just had to pay some bills, give the people give people a continuation of what might happen. But
Yes, sir.
you know, while we're on the subject of telling stories, you know us, man. We open up to each other, and I hope for the day that I get a chance to open up like you about certain situations that are honestly going on in the background. Brother Glenn, we love you too. Ulysses, he said that he loved you and that he's praying your peace in the Lord. Dodie said, Ulysses and Flavius, you both know how you always have a home here in my home.
All right, El Paso, here we come. El Paso, here we come.
Hey, just remember, heaven is our home. The kingdom is our home. So sometimes the Lord be letting a brother or sister be homeless. But thank you. We know where to go when we get to El Paso.
El Paso, here we come.
Huh?
I said, El Paso, here we come.
That's right. Dale said, pushing 2 hours, brother Flav. That's right, man. You know what I mean? Sometimes you saw me try to give him a cliffhanger. He wasn't done yet.
No, I wasn't done. I wasn't done.
And sometimes, Ulysses, I refrained from cutting you off so that you can tell your wonderful testimony of a trial that God was asking you to hold on to his word with. And even at times I've said it, I didn't know what to say to you during those times. What do you say to somebody going through, you went through something yesterday. We talked, we got through that. And then next day, you ain't gonna believe this. Oh my God, man, we just overcame something. And then the next day, but that's what it was like being Ulises' friend. Not only More importantly, these last few years, these last couple years, I've never seen him go through some of the things that he's gone through, and the courage to say and preach the messages that he has preached and taught in the midst of all of this has been a marvelous thing for me to watch, because I know y'all watching us, but I've been watching him. And I don't know a firmer brother, or a brother that I would rather stand next to come hell or high water other than you. And if I have another brother that I would stand with, I would still want you to be there, because I know that we'd be stronger together for them. And that's what this fellowship is truly all about. So, man, we got to go. Listen, y'all, we could do 2 hours. We could do longer.
Hold on. I'm going to say this one last thing. I've been get it off my chest. I got to get it off my chest. Just real quick. Y'all, when trials and tribulations come, yes, we have the Lord. Yes, we have the Spirit. But God will always send people in your life to help maintain, to help keep you, to help strengthen you, to help encourage you. And I can say truthfully, without a shadow of a doubt, that my brother Flavis has been so instrumental the last several years. He has a way of taking a serious situation, y'all, and cracking a joke in the middle of it. But man, like, there were times where you had no idea the mental warfare that I was dealing with and I was going through. You had no idea the inner battles that I had to fight. And the way that God would use you to encourage, to speak life, to motivate, to remind me of the things that God would say. Because I would call you like, I'm done. I'm going to do what I feel like I'm going to do. And Flavis will be there to be like, be strong, man. And those times where you felt like you had nothing that you could say, man, just the fact that you were there. Like, I had several other people, William Stokes, who was on the show earlier, commenting. He was one of those who stuck by me when everybody else done rolled out. So shout out to him. Shout out to those who help keep me together. But without you, bro, I honestly can say, without God using you the way that He did, in more ways than you will ever know, in more ways that you would ever know. Like, God couldn't have given me anybody more strong, more in tune with the voice of God, bro. Like, times and days where I was just like, even struggling to even want to live. your words and how you would talk to me and would motivate me, encourage me to keep going. Even when I acted tough around you, like, no, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Life is good. Look at God is faithful. God is. But inside, I was just like, man, Lord, I don't know how much more of this I can take. Like, Flavis would call me. I don't think he even realized, but he called me way more times in the last 7 months than he probably has in the last year. But it was all because of God leading you to do that, man. Because I stopped calling. I wasn't calling anybody. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I was just in a hotel room, just like, how did my life come to this? You know? But I love you, bro. I just wanted to stop the show, stop with the whole closing of it. I know we do gotta go. But just to let you know, man, that I appreciate you, man, more than you know. I'm grateful for you, bro. Grateful.
I love you too, bro. You know it. You know it. Don't ever doubt it. Hear what you tell them to the very end. I appreciate that, man. It's for those other ones who stood by you while you was going through. I think I'm in good company as far as those who God touched to know how to stand with you. And so I'm grateful. As you know, if I say I don't know what to say, then obviously it must have been God giving me something. But love you, bro. And your commitment, your dedication, and your ability to show up even while you're going through something that you're losing sleep over. I think I probably missed more days on Sundays than you have. But you still come with a word, no matter what you're going through, man. And you're a pillar in the church. And sometimes the hardest lessons are given to those who God has elevated. And Satan will put you up to see how you would act. And sometimes when you're up, everybody around you just seems wrong. Seems like their response to what you're going through isn't right. But God is allowing these things because it's the trials of sonship. You know, we really are more than just words. And we really are everything that the Bible says for real, whether it's hard to believe, or hard to comprehend or not. So it's an honor to stand next to a son like you. And with that being said, we got to get out of here, y'all. You know what I'm saying? We got to go. Y'all over here sending, Amanda sending hugs. She said, you guys rock. Oh, man. And we're grateful for you also. We're grateful for you also, Ulises.
Yeah.
You were there from the jump, till the end, huh?
Yeah, we appreciate you guys so much for joining this
So much.
special story time host interview. Yes, yeah, there will be more to come. Don't forget to hit that like button, that love button. Don't forget to share this video. Go to Instagram. You will find us there at the F.I.R.M 365 24/7. Also at the YouTube, as the Mexicans would say, the YouTube. At the YouTube at 365 24/7. Don't forget to follow us there. Don't forget to hit that notification button and subscribe. But listen, y'all, we appreciate you guys so much. Brother Dale, we're almost at 2 hours. 144 and counting. But we
couldn't close the book. You know what I mean? But like you said, man, listen, y'all, be back next week, Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be here going in talking about what we need to talk about. We appreciate everybody pitching in, saying, I mean, all your feedback was amazing. You know what I mean? It helped cushion a hard conversation. But the next time that we do story time, we want you guys to accept our presentation. It's just easier sometimes in an interview platform than it is to just kind of just start talking. Sometimes you don't know where to start. Sometimes you don't know how to navigate the conversation to get some of the things out that you really want to say. But a great interview will help get you there. And it's a representation of a great journey that we're all on in God. So we appreciate y'all being here with us tonight. We are thankful for you. Thank you for tuning in, sticking with us this long. For those that popped in and popped out, you guys are the firm ones in this world. So we encourage you to go out from the fellowship, but come back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tomorrow, you guys want to continue the fellowship tomorrow. We always let you guys know that our link is at the bottom. You can go to our Facebook page where we do more rooted. No, I mean, how you want to say it? We do ministry on purpose at the website there at the bottom. Oh, my bad. Go ahead. the United Body of Christ, and it is the nature, the firm, the fellowship in righteous manner. It is the nature of the United Body of Christ, because how can you be unified, though you be the body of Christ, if you do not fellowship in righteousness? All right. So all together, we can be here tomorrow, same YouTube channel at the Firm 365 24/7, but the different Facebook page, and that is the United Body of Christ, or at the UBC Kingdom on Facebook. You can look us up and you'll hear a great word. We don't know what the Lord is going to drop in our spirit for you, but just know that we're serving at all tables. You know what I mean? And if you didn't get enough tonight, you can get some more tomorrow. Other than that, look out for a random episode. And I think that's about it. Ulises, you got anything else?
Love y'all. Good night. See y'all next week.
Y'all. And good night.
Be released from that anger, resentment, and bitterness. You know, that's evidence.
Our context on it, and it kind of changed definition.
Convinced himself that he's sufficient for himself.
I love discipleship. Why I love mentoring.
The us in the other man is ever growing.
Facebook posts, Instagram posts, just another way of connecting with people.
Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another great conversation of F.I.R.M podcast. What up, world? This is the F.I.R.M.
Now, where's my Pop-Tarts at? That's
Hold on, I'm not done. I love you, Doc. I love everybody. Everybody love everybody.